All right, this is pre-calculus. Today is the 31st of August. We were talking about what happens when we have negative powers today in class, and the general reminder is we can go positive because you can go I to the power of 0, I to the power of 1, I to the power of 2, I to the power of 3, I to the power of 4, I to the power of 5, etc. And that's kind of going in this counterclockwise direction. But you can go in the clockwise direction too. If I go and start here at I to the power of 2 and go clockwise, I can go I to the power of 1 and count backwards. I to the power of 0 and keep counting backwards, you can get I to the power of -1. Keep counting backwards, I to the -2. Keep counting backwards, I to the -3. Keep counting backwards, I to the -4. You are allowed to go backwards as well. So it's a nice way to do your negative powers. There is another way that I'll be teaching once we start learning some division. But for now, that's a great way to do negative powers. And it's kind of nice too that positive powers of 4 and negative powers of 4 still line up over here at +1. So I had just one example problem for you right here where we still distribute the -3 into both the 2 and the I. Whenever you have just normal real numbers to powers of negatives, you take the reciprocal, it's going to be 1 over that, and then you make that into a positive power. So that's what happened down here. It's a positive power. And then how did I figure out that I to the power of -3 was I? Well, I went to my table and said, oh, I to the power of -3 is right there, and the answer is just I. It's using that pattern, that graphical pattern. And then, of course, 1 over 2 to the power of 3, to the power of 3 is 8, so the final answer is 1/8 I. So you're checking your understanding problems for tonight were these, just made up on the fly. So the way that we're going to do these, again, we are going to distribute the power of -5. I'm going to have 7 to the power of -5 times I to the power of -5. And I to the power of -5. I go -4, keep going clockwise, and I get down here. This is where I to the power of -5 lives, which is -I. So I'm going to come down here and say this is just -I. And then I have 7 to the power of -5 is really the reciprocal 1 over 7. And now instead of a -5, a +5. All right, and 7 to the power of 5 is a gigantic number that I have not memorized. I am going to use a calculator. So what is 7 to the power of 5? And I can do a split screen here and put you on one side, put you on the other, and say 7 to the power of 5 is 16,807. So I can say that this is 1 over 16,807. There's an I there, there's the negative, and there is our final answer, which I will make into a nice box. Cool. Next problem. 2I to the -10. Again, I'm going to distribute that power. It's not really distributing, but it kind of sounds like it is. So it's 2 to the power of -10 times I to the power of -10. I'm going to deal with that 2 first. So it's going to be 1 over 2 to the power of +10, and then I to the power of -10. Where does that live? So I know that I to the power of -8 would live. Let me use my laser pointer so I don't have to erase. I to the power of -8 would live where it's divisible by 4. So -8, -9, -10. So -10 lives at -1. So I'll come down here and say that is -1. And now all that's left to do is do 2 to the power of 10. And I do not need a calculator because 2s are really famous. 2 to the power of 10 is famous because that is the megabyte size. Because whenever you have the old-fashioned, not really old-fashioned, but like the little USB thumb drives, whatever you're calling them nowadays, where they have the little thing that you plug into the computer. Back in the day, you would have a megabyte. You would have 1 megabyte. And a megabyte, by definition, was 2 to the power of 10 bytes. And 2 to the power of 10, everyone just kind of knew it back in the day. We have to teach the younger generation what 2 to the power of 10 is. It's 1,024. A lot of people think, oh, a megabyte is just 1,000 bytes, and you're close, and it is advertised wrong all the time. It's like, oh, I got 8,000 bytes. It's not really. It's like you have to multiply 1,024 by 8 if it's 8 megabytes. But 1 megabyte, it does have that 24 at the end. So I know that their answer down here is going to be, I'm running out of room, I'll come over here and say this is 1 over 1,024, and it needs to be a negative. And there is our final answer. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.